Bon après-midi à tous et bienvenue à cette conférence de presse avec la Première ministre Susan Holt et le ministre des Ressources naturelles John Herron. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this media availability with Premier Susan Holt and Minister of Natural Resources John Herron. Before I turn things over to the Premier, I would like to remind you all to please ensure your microphones are placed on mute. I'd also like to let you know that interpretation services are available. You can access them by clicking them on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. Premier.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Given the cooler weather that we've had and the incredible ongoing efforts of our hardworking firefighting teams and emergency responders around the province, I'm pleased to share that as of midnight tonight, we will be removing the restrictions that were placed on Crown lands.
Given the cooler weather and the incredible ongoing efforts of our hardworking firefighting teams around the province, I want to share that as of midnight tonight, we will be removing the restrictions that were placed on Crown lands.
The province-wide burn ban remains in place. Cependant,
however, the province-wide burn ban will remain in place.
I want to thank New Brunswickers for their cooperation, for changing their plans, and for making the effort to protect our forests and our communities. And I want to thank the firefighters, the pilots, the staff at EMO, the public safety staff and natural resources teams who have been working non-stop for the past 16 plus days to protect our province and its people. Thank you. Je veux remercier.
I would like to thank New Brunswickers for their cooperation, for changing their plans, for protecting our forests and communities. And I want to thank from the bottom of my heart the firefighters, the pilots, the staff of EMO, public safety, and natural resources who have been working non-stop for the past 16 plus days to protect our people. Thank you.
Details.
Thank you very much, Premier. Good afternoon. Bon après-midi. While the wildfire situation remains serious in New Brunswick, we are making progress thanks to the tireless work of our firefighters both on the ground and in the air. This also includes those who support them, the ops room, the logistics staff, pilots, incident management teams, and the local fire department who have all stepped up to offer their support. I also want to thank New Brunswickers and visitors to our province for their cooperation over the last few weeks. Je tiens également à remercier.
I would also like to thank New Brunswickers and visitors to our province for their cooperation over the last few weeks. There are currently 20 fires in the province, with 3 out of control, including Beaverbrook Stream, Black River Bridge, and Rocky Brook.
I need to correct that. There are currently 18 on a 18.
We have 18 fires right now,
with 3 out of control, those including Beaver Lake Stream, Fire 281, the Ravine Fire, and Black River Bridge. The evacuation advisory for Fire Black River Bridge remains in place. A special air quality statement has been issued for Moncton in the southeast of New Brunswick and eastern portions of Kings and St. John counties due to wildfire smoke from across the Bay of Fundy. We encourage everyone to take precautions when heavy smoke affects air quality. Although we remain at risk, we are indeed in a much better place today compared to where we were over the last couple of weeks. We all remember that just over 10 days ago, we had 39 fires in play. We had temperatures near the 40s. We're now in a situation where we have temperatures that are well into the very low teens at night, adding additional humidity, thus giving us the opportunity to do what we're doing here today. We have never experienced a wildfire season of this intensity before. Although we have been preparing for it, usually we are the provinces deploying our firefighters to other provinces. This had provided the opportunity for our firefighters to be able to glean an immense amount of expertise fighting the big fires, whether that's in the Northwest Territories or our Western provinces. And now that those same individuals are being able to apply those courageous skills here on New Brunswick soil. This has contributed to us having a highly trained and experienced team, and that has been clear with the precision, the coordination, and the skill that has been shown by the entire firefighting team since day one. The $40 million of federal provincial investment we have made earlier this spring has enabled us to upgrade equipment and employ new strategies against these wildfires. Our structural protection team has been hard at work, setting up things like sprinklers on structures within fire zones. And so far, we are pleased to say that no structures have been lost today, as of today. I encourage everyone to visit our Fire Smart page to learn simple tips where you can learn how to protect your own home and your communities. Going forward, we are still asking that people be safe and cautious when they return to the woods, and that they stay away from any areas where firefighters are still actively fighting fires. We are heading in a better direction, and the cooler temperatures and the rain we are getting today will help the wildfire situation in our province and will continue to be a concern until the snow flies. Should we have multiple fires ignite after we open Crown lands, or should we face a fire of significance that is threatening homes, businesses, or other infrastructure, we may need to reconsider added precautions on Crown lands again. Again, thank you very much. Thank you to all New Brunswickers who have helped us together protect our communities, protect our families over these past few weeks.
We will now proceed with questions from members of the media. Each reporter will have one question and one follow-up. You have the right to pose your question in the official language of your choice. Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions des journalistes. Chaque journaliste aura droit à une question puis une suivie. Vous avez le droit de poser votre question dans la langue officielle de votre choix. On va commencer avec Alex Villeneuve, Radio-Canada.
Merci.
Thank you. So, Mr. Minister Herron, is the pressure on the teams that were facing the the fires, is it still, in the long term, is it still sustainable? If this continued, would we have had the resources and the personnel needed to continue? Excellent question, because the matter of available resources informs our decision as to whether to reopen Crown land or not, because if we need the resources in order to go ahead with an initial attack. If there's a new fire, we have people who can react quickly. Okay, we wouldn't have the same investment of resources for it took all of our resources as well as those for other resources, other provinces as well. At this time, I can say that we are ready to take on the fires because we have the water bombers and the helicopters that are there now, and they're available for our department. As well, we have firefighters coming from other provinces, for example, Ontario, who have done great work in the Beaver Lake Stream area. I think it's pretty much it. In the future years, will we have to buy in New Brunswick more resources and hire more people and train them for forest fires? In Quebec, they didn't have very many, so they could send their bombardiers. But will we need more of those? Will we have to buy more planes? Well, that's we're talking about that continually, and we at a certain point we decide to. We had more planes through FPL, for example, but we have to have that discussion with PEI, Nova Scotia, to Newfoundland to see that we can continue to serve everyone. Now, we have extraordinary pilots, and the process to train a pilot to do this work is something that's very specific, and we will always make sure that we have the people coming into the system and have the opportunity, like Mr. Heron said, do the work in areas other than New Brunswick so that they can be ready to work here. When we visited the Miramichi Center, I spoke with many members of the firefighters there, and their first forest fire was never in New Brunswick. Their first learning opportunity was always elsewhere, and now they were fighting home. We're always looking at what the resources are for us and our neighbors. Do we need more as the climate changes in the future? Okay. Well, that's an assessment that we're doing right now. What do we need? What do we think we'll need next year and the next year after that? And we're due to work on this regionally. We have enough people training at this time, and we'll have to do that analysis. Okay. I would like to repeat that we are truly happy that we invested the $40 million this spring, and that equipment for the firefighting hoses and for protecting structures, we have that now, and we used the new equipment quite a bit over the past 3 weeks. And I'm quite happy to say right now that Fire Protection Limited has placed an order for 2 new water bombers, like the Fire Bosses, that can find water for their tanks in lakes and from the ocean, and it's much more effective than the other planes. Barbara Simpson, Post Media.
Thank you very much. My first question is, I understand there won't be a final dollar figure on this yet as the fire response continues, but is there an idea of how much the provincial government has spent so far on the firefighting response with these wildfires?
We're compiling that information right now, Barbara. As you can understand, we're also still, we're on day 16 here of this experience, and so there is still work being done at an urgent level with evacuation alerts and advisories in place and things like that. So we are compiling the information, but we don't have a preliminary number to give you.
And then my follow-up is, do you have an idea from NB Power yet the extent of damage to their transmission infrastructure in the province?
NB Power is a part of the emergency management organization, the EMO, and their operations. And so we get on a daily basis an update about lines at risk, lines down, infrastructure that's at risk. And we've actually done some specific firefighting work to make sure that those critical assets and pieces of infrastructure are well protected to ensure service to New Brunswickers. And so there's actually the teams at MB Power, along with the firefighting teams, have been really quick to respond where there are lines at risk, where things like the wind we had on the weekend starts to play a different kind of role with power. So we've been working very closely with MB Power to make sure that as we fight these fires, we're doing so in a way that keeps New Brunswickers connected and protects that infrastructure.
So despite the amount of fires that we've had, for the most part, they haven't been adjacent to areas where we had populations, and so a lot of MB Power's infrastructure wasn't nearby. But I did have a chance to be able to visit the Irishtown fire and the Oldfield fire, and I do remember during the drive along Route 8, you could see a good number of power lines, power poles that were burnt off from the bottom. So although we've avoided losing structures, clearly there has to be some degree of infrastructure lost to MB Power, particularly along Route 8 with the Oldfield fire.
Suzanne Lapointe, Global News.
Hi, I'm wondering, I realize it's not completely over yet, but what have been the main takeaways from this intense fire season? Are there going to be any protocols that will change going forward?
I would say the takeaway that I'm really heartened by is we've heard for quite some time that the firefighters that we have in New Brunswick are highly trained. They're sought after by the Canadian Interagency Forest Fires Center for their expertise, and we were able to see that expertise that they were able to glean fighting the big fires out west helped us at home. So I don't know if it's a takeaway or a surprise, but when you actually see it in action, I think it's immensely inspiring. So the investments that we've made in the past, previous governments, as well as our own now, that it really did an extraordinary job at keeping New Brunswickers safe.
And I'll just add, Suzanne, we always learn from these sorts of situations, opportunities for improvement. There are always opportunities for improvement. So we will be looking at, ways to communicate better and more frequently. We're looking at evacuation procedures. The organization, particularly in EMO and in DNR, works in a continuous improvement model. So they've even applied some of those changes within the 3 weeks that we've been fighting these fires to do things differently tomorrow or the next day, as have we among our team. But the one thing that I'll say is I have been pleased by, and it's an interesting challenge for us to determine how to handle all the offers of help. There have been an extraordinary amount of offers of assistance, whether it's from people with heavy equipment, whether it's from people who were previously working in emergency response or firefighters, whether it's folks who just want to provide food, provide support to the folks fighting the fires, whether it's universities that are offering residences, the spirit of New Brunswickers to want to help at a time maybe when they feel helpless and want to get involved was incredible. And we were overwhelmed by that offer of support, and our ability to handle all of those offers of help was stretched. And so that's something, it's a good problem to have, but we want to figure out how to better help New Brunswickers help us when they're so keen to get behind the teams of firefighters and emergency responders that are putting all of their efforts into keeping us safe. So that's something we're going to continue to work on.
Thank you. And for my follow-up, have the causes of the Irishtown and Oldfield road fires been determined?
No.
Canadian Press.
Hi, Premier. I was just wondering if there's going to be any assessment of the damage done to the wildlife, to the trees and soil. Are there any studies going to be conducted on what the situation is and how and what steps to take to restore this area?
studies on trees, wildlife, soil?
So I don't have a fulsome answer for you on that, Hina. Having wildfires in New Brunswick isn't new. It is common for us to lose in the area between 400 and 500 hectares on an annual basis. So just to state the obvious, I suspect we would emulate the same processes that we've had in the past, but in this circumstance, it would be times 4. But I'd be happy to get back to you with a more fulsome answer to that question sometime by midday tomorrow.
That works. Thank you. And for my follow-up, I was wondering what is the pressure on the firefighters here? I understand that they go to other provinces and work there, but this is an extremely different situation here right now, and it's only going to get worse with each passing year. So what preparations are being made to help them?
In the immediate, though, I think we have to pay attention to even today is that we're being very, very conscious in terms of managing shifts now, that these firefighters have been hard at it for nearly 3 weeks. One of the weeks through just incredibly arduous temperatures. When I was in the Miramichi at the Oldfield fire, I guess last week, it was just after the temperature broke. I was astonished. The premier and I and Minister Govan, when we walked through an opportunity to see a group that was about to go out, they looked positive, almost elated, as if they had a second wind because they were fighting fires on only 21 degrees C as opposed to 39 or 38 degrees C. So they're still with us, but we all must understand that these folks have been courageous, hardworking, dedicated, passionate. New Brunswick heroes without any superlative that you can find is justified here for their super effort.
Nick Moore, CTV.
I think last time that you were at this podium, you kind of were able to quantify what the rain we had got to that point, having bought a couple of days. I'm just wondering, are you able to quantify the current situation with the rain and the temperature change? How many days have we been bought here? How close are we maybe to having restrictions in Crown land? Just trying to get an idea of how dry the forest is right now, and if there are any particular areas of the province that are more dry than others.
So I'm going to start in reverse. I'll give you the bad news first, and then I'll get the good news. The bad news is the forest is really dry, and it's going to continue to be dry until the snow comes. But I think until the end of September, we're going to be really on an extraordinary fire watch. So that piece is there. While we're able to take the decision that we have today is not necessarily in order, but when we were fighting 39 fires, we just didn't have the resources. We needed to really make sure we took every single precaution possible to mitigate the number of fires that we had. We didn't. It was tough to get everything under control when we had 39 fires essentially all at once with those temperatures. Today it's much different. We have 18 fires. We're making progress on the 3 fires that are deemed to be out of control. The largest problem fires that we've had are in full containment. Then you add to the fact that temperatures are lower when they're, especially at night. That brings a fair amount of humidity. That is immensely helpful. So it's all vectoring in a much better situation for us to take the decision that we made today.
And my follow is a follow to Suzanne's question about the cause here. I know no cause has been found yet, but what can you say about how this investigation is going? I think Premier, you said that it's hard to investigate a fire while it's still burning, but some of these fires are now out. What can you say about how the process is happening or will be happening with the investigation of this? And can you rule out any human involvement in any of these fires at this point?
So there are some things that we know, and there are some things that we don't know. So, for instance, some fires need, a degree of investigation. Some we know to be a little bit more obvious. So, for instance, the Black River Bridge fire, that's fire number 300, which is in the southeast of the Miramichi. We believe that fire may have been a result of a holdover lightning strike from days ago. And that would be about 5 or 6 days ago. So the lightning may have been burning in the ground and popped out due to conditions. So despite the heavy winds that we had over the weekend, which made it very problematic to actually dispatch the water bombers, we had our medium helicopters with belly tanks that were able to provide initial attack on that fire, which ultimately prevented that fire from spreading. So more infrastructure that we have in place is why we're able to take this type of decision. In some situations, we know where the causes were, and we're happy to share that when we know. And the other ones might take a little bit more time.
Natalie Sturgeon, CHCO TV, The Courier.
Thanks for taking my question. As the minister mentioned, you expect that things will be quite unsteady until the snow flies. We're heading into hurricane season, so I'm wondering how you're going to juggle both of those types of issues that face New Brunswickers around the same time, September, October.
Okay. In a weird way, it could, depending on what kind of hurricane, we might be very happy to receive a torrential amount of rain during a period of time. So that could actually solve a situation. But if there's a learning from the exercise that we've had over the last 3 weeks, having multiple fires at the same time isn't helpful. Having more than one problem to deal with at the same time isn't helpful. But we've been through hurricanes before, we've been through wildfires before, and I guess the fact that we're opening up Crown lands again to New Brunswickers is an indication that we can meet every challenge that's before us.
And my follow-up is one of Charlotte County's own, Ron Fournier, has been called to help with the wildfires. He owns a helicopter here that can be converted for fire suppression. I wonder how helpful that effort has been, New Brunswickers stepping up in ways that they can step up into.
Well, as I said, Natalie, it's been incredible. The amount of offers and help that we've had from New Brunswickers like Ron. And thank you, Ron, if you're out there listening to this, because that help, folks who have helicopters, planes, trucks, dozers, you name it, spare beds, kitchens, New Brunswickers have been stepping up to help. And I know that makes a difference for the teams because they feel that support and encouragement on the ground. That an extra helicopter makes a huge difference because we need eyes on these things. We need people out there helping us spot fires early, get the resources exactly where they need to go so that all of these initial attacks that we've made on the 100 fires that have cropped up since the Oldfield Road Oldfield Road fire means that we can be on top of it and stop it before it becomes a real problem or threat. So it's a huge thanks to Ron and people like him who have offered the kind of resources that we need to fight these fires.
Oliver Pearson, CBC.
Hello. I had a question just about longer term planning. It was mentioned last week that some of that could begin. I'm curious, like where that is, and with the current forecast, if there's an outlook on when these fires could come to an end.
So we touched on that, I think, last week in the press conference, was that when the temperatures, when we got that little bit of rain and the temperatures finally started to drop and there was some more humidity in the air caused by those colder evenings, it started to enable us to be able to plan our how we were attacking our fires, getting us deploying our assets in terms of how we were able to corral fires, like Fire 281, like Chief's Fire as well, and by also planning on how we use our assets, also even to how we use our human resources as well, we were able to have a better process in terms of how we were able to better shift in and shift out the actual firefighters themselves. So we're now dictating the pace in terms of with the existing fires that are in play. But before, we were really in reactive mode when it was as hot as it was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, you said we're heading in a better direction. Is there, an estimate or a timeline at all with this longer term planning that's in place right now?
So when I was at the fire center again this morning, they said the end of September we're going to have to be hyper vigilant, and it could go into mid October.
Thank you.
Alexander Johnson, All New Brunswick.
Good afternoon. I wanted to ask about forestry and with the announcement today, what details can you share about what forestry activities are being allowed and where and under what restrictions?
We're essentially in the place that we would have been about 3 weeks ago. If you folks probably remember that the first precautions that the government had announced is that we had taken an initiative to require forestry companies to do harvesting only at night. That's a common practice that we've done in past years when we've had dry spells, especially during this extraordinary drying period that we have. So going forward is that the forestry sector, it will be operating in the evening. I believe the hours are from 6 p.m. to 12 noon. There's more humidity in the air. That's a safer time frame. They're going to need to have fire suppression equipment on hand, tanks of water, fire spotters, and the like. Even though we're lifting restrictions for New Brunswickers for activities on Crown lands and in the forest, we still think it's appropriate for us to be able to have those restrictions with the forestry sector itself. They can harvest, but it's going to be under the auspices that we've used during past dry seasons.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up to, I guess, summarize what we've seen in the last month or so, how long did we have like a true full ban on forest harvesting this past month?
For full forest harvesting, I don't think it was particularly that long. Maybe just a touch over a week, maybe just a touch under a week.
David Koch, MB Media Co-op. David Koch, MB Media Co-op.
You hear me?
There you are.
Sorry about that. My question relates to smoke from wildfires in Nova Scotia, as people here in southeast New Brunswick are being advised to keep their windows closed due to health risks from poor air quality, but also to prioritize keeping cool. This is from Environment Canada. This seems to create a dilemma for people who are poor or working class and don't have the kind of air conditioning or air purification system, particularly the kind of AC that would allow them to recirculate indoor air while maintaining a cool temperature. So considering that with the climate crisis, wildfire smoke and extreme heat are expected to worsen, do you see a role for government, for the provincial government or the feds for that matter, in protecting the health of people in these circumstances? And if so, what is it? What role should government play in protecting their health?
Government plays a significant role in protecting the health and the well-being of New Brunswickers, and it's something that we spend a lot of time on, looking at specifically improvements to our healthcare system, but also supports to vulnerable New Brunswickers. So we partner pretty closely with municipalities and other organizations to make sure that public infrastructure is in place to support things like cooling or warming, depending on the time of year and the challenge being experienced, to support the programs that make less expensive or subsidize the cost of infrastructure at home, like mini splits and things like that. So there's absolutely a role for us to play to make sure that our most vulnerable aren't even more impacted by the costs of a changing climate and the costs of incidences like the fires in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick that are challenging our air quality, and making everybody think about their temperatures, what they're breathing, and how they protect themselves. So there's absolutely a role for government to play.
Okay, just any message for people who are, maybe facing that dilemma today, right? Who maybe renters in apartments that might be very hot, but they're also, noticing this smell of smoke in their home.
Yeah, this is something that we saw actually in Irishtown specifically. So when the Irishtown fires were happening and the community came together, particularly the Maple Hills community, to set up a place where people could go, where they could get access to air conditioning, cooler temperatures. There were showers, there were water and food, there were supports in place for people who needed an alternate environment than the one that their home had available. And so we'll continue to work with our partners to make sure that people who are being impacted have options, supports, and alternatives close by so that we can protect their health.
Okay, that concludes our list of questions. I'll pass it back to the Premier for some closing remarks.
Thanks very much, everybody, for all of your questions. We very much appreciate that you've been helping pass information that New Brunswickers need on to them. I'll take a moment to note that we have seen through this incident an increase in misinformation, but with your help and thanks to the New Brunswickers who are questioning, calling out, reaching out to us to say, is this true or not, and have relied upon government communication vehicles, whether it's through MBEMO or GMB or otherwise. Thank you for that. Please continue to do so as we see more misinformation circulating. Je veux remercier les médias pour vos questions.
I want to thank the media for their questions to transmit the important messages because the New Brunswickers need these messages. We've seen that with this crisis, a higher increase of misinformation, and we appreciate that New Brunswickers are asking us, is this true? I want to check this because it doesn't seem quite right. So thank you for being conscious about that, and by using resources like firewatch.ca for your information.
We are opening Crown lands for use, that we are removing the restrictions on Crown lands, but that the fire ban remains in place, and we're asking all New Brunswickers to continue to be safe and to take care, to be thoughtful about your ATVs, not to smoke in the woods, but we're pleased that with the exceptional effort of our firefighters, we're able to reopen Crown lands, and we ask that you continue to be diligent right through to the end of September and beyond, as we use all of our best resources possible to protect our province and its people. Alors, je veux réaffirmer que le maître...
So I want to reaffirm that we are removing restrictions on going into Crown land, but the burn prohibition is still in effect. And please continue to partner with us for the safety of all New Brunswickers. We appreciate that. So continue to be careful with your vehicles and don't smoke in the woods. Things like that help. And it puts us in a position to where we can reopen Crown land. But we want you to be safe and help us with that, because we still have an environment that is sensitive until the end of September and perhaps even into October. So thank you to all New Brunswickers for helping us with this today. We appreciate your support.